Well, hello, everybody. I know it's not usual to be looking at the guys who watch football during the off season, but we have a few very special reasons to be coming together today to provide content for you. Number one, the champion of the league that has been the catalyst to this podcast, the trophy has been received. David, would you like to show the world what is in your possession?
I thought you would never ask. I am very, very proud to be finally possessing this beautiful trophy. I sleep with it every night. Won't go into any more further details than that, but it has recently been engraved. It now shows off the latest champion, and I hope it will remain in my possession for a long time.
Amazing.
I think this is the first. I think this is the first pod of 2022. Is that right?
Yes, we've not joined since I guess since before the Super Bowl.
Perfect. So I'm excited to welcome our new, very, very famous special guest, celebrity joining the pod today. But before we even do that, I think as the champion, I have a little, I have a little bit of business to take care of as the new year starts. So just two executive orders for the group. PPF is now officially recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We're moving our embassy over there. And I'm issuing a full pardon to Ron Hecht with no questions asked. But continue with the introduction.
There will be no dissent, I expect, with members of the league. The other reason that we're coming together today is we have a special guest. It's not often we have a special guest on Guys Who Watch Football, but we've made a special exception because today we are joined by the bad boy of scoops, Justin Cohen. The reason we have Justin Cohen joining the pod today is he has taken Twitter by storm over the course of the last 6 to 10 months, providing scoops, known as actually the bad boy of scoops, has amassed over 1,000 Twitter followers in just a very brief period of time and has been able to carve out just 30 minutes of his schedule to join us today to talk about the whirlwind of an offseason that we have had. This has potentially been the greatest offseason in the history of the NFL, and we have not even had the draft yet. So
yeah, it's March.
With that, let's give a warm welcome to Justin Cohen. Justin, welcome to the pod.
Hey, thank you, Greg. Thank you, David, for having me. Big fan of the pod that you've been doing. I've been following you guys for some time now, and I'm excited to be on. Finally, kind of share some time with you, talk football. As a fellow guy who watches football and likes football, I'm excited to chop it up with you guys, and just really proud of what you're doing. You're disrupting the podcast space, and it's really exciting to see, for sure.
Awesome. Well, we've been following you as well. Really impressed with everything you've done and what you've brought to the table. So thank you for sharing your insights and lending us a few minutes of your time and expertise in the scoop world.
Yeah, for those that don't know, we've been working behind the scenes with Justin's PR manager, and you've got a lot.
It's been a tough interview to book. I mean, let me tell you, this has been months in the making.
Yeah, with all of the requests that you have coming in, with all
He's
of the
doing so much, speaking to so many different school groups, other things. It's been a very busy time for Justin.
Remarkable. So thanks for giving us the time. And if you need to break news while we are recording this, feel free. Our viewers would love to see
absolutely.
scoop in real time.
For sure.
I'm ready to go. I got this cell phone here. I got this one over here, and I got a third cell phone waiting by. I'm ready.
I love it. Well, let's kind of walk through the highlights. I mean, everybody is talking about the changes of the guard, quarterbacks all over the place. The AFC is clearly tilted over the NFC right now. Russell Wilson to the Broncos, Deshaun Watson to the Browns, Tyreek Hill at the position player with the wide receiver going to the Dolphins from the Chiefs, Devontae Adams to the Raiders.
Tom Brady retiring and then unretiring, right? Aaron Rodgers maybe leaving and being disgruntled and then all of a sudden being happy and staying in Green Bay. There's just a lot of whiplash going on.
While simultaneously losing his top target. Matt Ryan, interestingly, to the Colts in the aftermath of the Watson deals. Wentz, of course, not a very good quarterback, so not sure why we even bring him up, but he's with the Commanders, which is an odd team name that we now have to live with for the rest of our lives. So there's just a ton of stuff happening. I probably missed some notable moves, but those are really the keynotes. So Justin, since we have you, what has been your reaction to this? And more importantly, could there be more to come?
Yeah, I think, one of the big takeaways is that a lot of times we're looking at the cap space and there's this, feeling that the cap isn't real, but a lot of these moves have really been cap dependent. We're looking at freeing up room. There's a lot of players that have really, really extensive contracts. So it's kind of hard to be able to sign some of these other players.
Right.
Most recently, you look at Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins. You have Patrick Mahomes making just tons and tons of money, and you just can't keep re-signing, some of your premier players. You're just running out of money at some point. So exciting to see that kind of come to fruition for a lot of teams, and we'll see how it continues to play out.
So Justin, I have to ask you probably about the biggest rumor that's currently still out there is this idea that Tom Brady, after retiring, unretiring, and then wanting to, coming back, is potentially interested in maybe leaving the Bucs. A lot of people have thrown out the idea of the Dolphins as a destination for him, staying in Florida. Is this real? Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, my contacts in Tampa are telling me it's not real. So we'll see how it shakes out. There's always variability, and you never know in the end. But I think right now we're looking at like 95% chance, maybe even closer to 100, that he's staying in Tampa this year.
So what about staying on that note? What's this mean for Tua? This is put up or shut up time for him. It's not been the smoothest of transitions for him in the NFL, but boy, have they surrounded him with
2 years in, the excuses should be over, right?
Yeah, Mike McDaniel is playing. He's playing a game of Madden over there and just stacking players around Tua, which is awesome to see. I think there's really no more excuses. This is going to be the year that tells what they're going to do. And if Tua can't thrive with this cast around him, I think that really says all it has to say.
How much of a leash do you think he has? Right. I mean, does he, let's say we're 8 games halfway through the season and the team is below 500. I mean, they have a pretty solid backup now in Teddy Bridgewater, who's proven that he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's a perfectly serviceable NFL backup. I would think halfway through the season, if that team is not winning games and Tua's not playing well, there might be a lot of calls for him to step in.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more leash than maybe you would expect. I have a feeling that even if they're not doing great by midseason, you're probably going to see Tua, ride out the rest of the year. Very, very. I just think it's a really small chance that they're going to bench him outright for
Sure.
Teddy Bridgewater. That doesn't seem realistic. I think probably at that point they're going to start looking at the 2023 draft and just kind of
2 first rounders. So I guess maybe they give him the year as the audition, and he's really got to prove himself. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all these different quarterback moves, right? I want to talk a little about defense too, because I feel like there were some earlier in the offseason, there were some moves that otherwise would be like something we talk about for weeks. Khalil Mack going to the Raiders, that's the kind of thing we would talk about that for weeks if it didn't already happen, or going out to the West Coast. How do you see the AFC West shaping out with really teams that are really investing in the Chargers, in the Chargers bringing Khalil Mack, the Raiders bringing in Devontae Adams, and now the Chiefs still have Patrick Mahomes, but they've lost a key weapon. How do you see the AFC West shaping out?
I mean,
it's an arms race out there. So it's unbelievable. They're just stacking talent. It's definitely the most competitive division in all of football right now. Losing Tyreek Hill is a pretty huge blow to the Chiefs, so we'll see how they rebound. Probably looking more towards the draft in terms of restocking some of their receivers, even though they just brought in, they just brought in Juju and MBS. However, neither of those are really a standout one.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see how it shakes out. Most of the movement, or at least the big names, have been on offense. However, there has been a lot of defensive movement in the division too, like you were saying. Specifically with it's crazy. Khalil Mack seems like it was months ago. That happened like a week and a half ago.
I know. And honestly, that could be the biggest move of the offseason in many years, right? Like a major trade for an all-pro player, that would be normally an offseason defining move, but it's like a footnote right now.
Well, and Von Miller, on that note,
Yeah.
left the Super Bowl champion Rams, which was a great move in hindsight in and of itself, is now with the Buffalo Bills, who are considered a Super Bowl contender. And on the Chiefs, they've got 8 draft picks in the first 4 rounds, 2 in the first, 2 in the second, 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, meaning they're going to have to stack up, and they almost have to because of the size of Mahomes' contract. And so they need a lot of starters who are on rookie deals. But you're right. I mean, the division is just loaded. I think another underrated move, and I might be a little biased here, but getting Miles Jack from the Jaguars, who was inexplicably released and is now plugging the hole in the middle there as an inside linebacker with the Steelers, paired with Devin Bush. And then you've got Highsmith and Watt, the returning MVP on the defensive side for the Steelers. And that's a team that's going to be scary. I mean, the Steelers, if you just focus on them for a minute, and Justin, I'm curious your reaction to this, because I know you went to college in the Pittsburgh area. So the Steelers are going back to their roots in a sense. They're going to have potentially a really strong running game with Najee Harris. They've made some notable signings on their offensive line. We'll likely address the line in the draft as well. Serviceable receivers, just like they used to have with Hines Ward and the others. A tremendous young tight end in Freiermuth, which to some people resembles a Heath Miller. And all of a sudden you've got an elite defense, right? And that is the old formula of the Steelers. Mitch Trubisky just needs to be slightly above average, and we're a dangerous team. And if he's not, we'll just replace him with whoever we think will be the next Big Ben. And that is the formula that got the Steelers to not having a losing season over the course of Big Ben and Mike Tomlin's tenure. So what are you looking at in Pittsburgh? And do you think that they're actually a little bit of an underdog in the AFC North, but could actually come out doing better than people think?
Yeah, I think that the Steelers have definitely improved on really all phases of the game this offseason. You know, they were a playoff team last year. However, their defense is going to be better this year. Their offense should be better. You have an improved O-line. You're bringing in a quarterback who certainly has a better arm in terms of just overall strength at this point in Ben's career compared to where Mitch Trubisky is. Plus, he has the mobility. It seems like a much better situation. It's hard to see that offense stepping backwards unless there's just some catastrophe that takes place. Najee going into his second year really primes them to compete in the division. But on the flip side, you also have, you're supposedly going to be having a healthy Lamar coming back for Baltimore. You have Sean Watson now with the Browns. You have, they were in the Super Bowl last year. The Bengals coming back looking to compete again. It's going to be a challenging division, and I think probably an uphill battle for the Steelers. So definitely having that improved roster should help, but it's still going to be a dogfight down there.
It's got to be tough having the worst quarterback in the division, right? Like, I understand the pedigree of the team. I understand the defense and the coaching, and the Steelers know how to win games. But it's not just that they have the worst QB in the division. They have the worst QB in the division by such a great margin, right? You have three guys who could be Pro Bowlers, and then you have Mitchell Trubisky.
Not just Pro Bowlers, but league MVPs.
Yeah. Like, you can make a very easy case. Like it would not at all be difficult to envision Deshaun Watson winning the MVP, Lamar Jackson winning the MVP again, like he did 3 years ago, or Joe Burrow taking that final step in his third year in the NFL and winning the MVP. Mitchell Trubisky, maybe there's still something left in the tank. He's not at that caliber.
Let's move over to the Colts. Does Matt Ryan, now that they're done with the Wentz experiment, I mean, it feels like the Colts have had a different starting quarterback for 6 or 7 years in a row now, but Matt Ryan's intriguing. He's been to a Super Bowl. Does he take the Colts to the next level? Does he do what Wentz was supposed to have done?
Yeah, I think that he does. He seems like a more capable quarterback than Carson Wentz was. They still have a very, very impressive offensive line. So you're going from the Atlanta Falcons, where he was sacked at one of the highest rates of any quarterback in the league, to now Indianapolis, where you have this amazing O-line to protect you. I think it just gives them a lot more opportunity. From what I've seen from Matt Ryan this past year, I don't think his arm is gone. He just needs time in the pocket. So we'll see what happens. Plus, it's a running game focused team. Like the expectation for Matt Ryan is not to go out there and throw 50 passes a game. They want to run the ball, and they want him to be a game manager at this point in his career, which I think is completely feasible for him.
So we've talked about this from the perspective of the Colts, which I totally get. From the perspective of Matt Ryan, like, is there a possible better fit and way to end his career? My goodness, like, he goes to a place with, like you said, like one of the best, maybe the best offensive lines in all, in all football, an all-world running back who's really the focal point of most defenses as they plan for them, and just a really solid, all-around team that gives him a chance to be protected and win a Super Bowl with like perfectly serviceable wide receivers, which are better than what he was going to have in Atlanta. So I think and he got his contract guaranteed, right? So overall, it was a fantastic move for Matt. And I think you're right that they're a team that is going to be in it till the very end next year in one of the weaker divisions in all football.
The roster that compares most to the Colts, right? If we're staying in the AFC, is the Broncos. So I think an easy next question to this is Russell Wilson the next Peyton Manning to come into Denver and bring a Super Bowl to a near Super Bowl ready roster? Justin, what are you hearing in Denver right now? Are folks excited about Russell Wilson, or are they nervous that he's as bad as he looked on the field over the course of the last couple seasons in Seattle?
Yeah, the general consensus is that it's an upgrade for sure, especially compared to what Denver was putting out at quarterback the last few seasons. I think what their biggest problem is going to be is just the strength of the division overall. They're still certainly the worst team in that division. So
Wow.
in terms of competing, there may be some hyperbole to that, but I think for the most part, it's fairly true. Like, the expectation is not that they're going to win the division. I think they're really looking realistically at a wild card spot to be able to get in the playoffs. So I think there's just way too much competition within that division. The Broncos defense is not as strong as it was in previous years. And you have a lot of offensive weapons on those other teams around you that they have to play twice a year. So I don't see it being a great situation. I think it's definitely an upgrade in terms of the surroundings for Russell Wilson. I think he's in a much better situation than he was in Seattle. So we'll see how it plays out.
Do you think they regret letting Von Miller go like that, in the sense that now they're trying to compete for a Super Bowl, which is what he just helped the Rams do and what might be helping the Bills do in the AFC, right? And here they are now without him. Do you think they really feel that, or could they just not afford him anymore?
I think it's a situation that they couldn't afford him anymore. It's just, cap hits are just piling up. But you look at how he performed last year, he looked pretty great in the games that he played. So they're definitely missing him for sure. It's just a matter of were they able to actually keep him in the first place.
They have some pretty good talent on that linebacker core to begin with. So I feel like, that's not what's going to hold Denver back.
How funny would it be to see the Broncos playing against the Bills in the playoffs and to see Von Miller making game-changing plays against Russell Wilson?
Sacking Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Exactly. That could be great. I mean, honestly, I'm so excited for the AFC playoffs next year. I don't think anybody's really going to be paying attention to the NFC playoffs. I think right. Tom Brady has a cakewalk.
Right.
It's probably why he came out of retirement.
It'll be Brady versus Rodgers. So that'll be the NFC playoffs. Yeah.
If the Packers can even get that far. So if one of two players is going to be traded, if we have some blockbusters left, who's more likely to be traded between now and the start of next season? Kyler Murray or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, wow. Good questions.
I think Kyler Murray, 100%. So you have Aaron Rodgers, who just signed a rather large extension, which means on a trade, they're either looking at restructuring that or someone's taken on that money. That's such a, to be able to make that trade for a team, you're really only looking at having a player for 2, maybe 3 years also. Yeah. Where you have Kyler Murray, who has his whole career ahead of him. It's going to cost you a lot less to be able to acquire him. And frankly, he's unhappy not being paid right now, whereas Aaron Rodgers is unhappy, but he's being paid. Right. So I 100% see Kyler Murray, taking the lead on that one.
It's unbelievable.
So I have 2 more questions for you. I want to be respectful of your time. I understand you have a TV hit coming up. First, I want to ask you about the NFL draft. A lot of just movement around in terms of picks being traded elsewhere. Do you see it kind of like relative to the standard mock drafts? I saw the one that you put out there a couple of days ago. Like, are there any kind of surprise guys who you think maybe are not in that top 10 who have the potential with a really good, next few weeks that might be able to kind of bump their stock up and surprise people by going early?
Yeah, I would say probably 2, specifically at the wide receiver position. You're seeing Drake London and Garrett Wilson, respectively. Just their stock just continues to rise and rise and rise. Looking in those top 10, you potentially could see, I think you could see a wide receiver sneak into that top 10 pretty easily. I don't have the list of the top 10. I mean,
the Jets draft at number 10, so that might be your spot right there.
Yeah, totally. Jets could easily take a wide receiver at 10. It depends on their needs. Like, you're looking at some of these players and and trying to figure out, like, yes, they would definitely thrive in this environment. The team could definitely use them, but are there other needs that they have, which is, pretty obvious.
All right.
But I would look at that too.
The last question I have for you, Justin, and Greg, if you have something you can jump in as well, but my fellow PPF league mates would kill me, if I didn't take the opportunity. I understand you've had a chance to look over our league results from the past year or so. What are your predictions for PPF going forward? Why am I going to win another championship? And who is going to be my biggest competitors on my way to my second in a row?
Yeah, looking, just definitely looking back through, some of the information you sent me. Surprising, looking at, a team, I think the owner's name is Andy Aarons. The guy's been in the league for 10 plus years and he hasn't won yet. That seems pretty
strange. It's so weird.
He's a founding member.
His name is nowhere on this trophy. It's so weird.
That was really the biggest shocker, just to see like the player who's been in the longest that has not won. Other than that, I think, you put together a pretty strong team last year. Let's see if you can replicate it again. I could see a lot of individuals kind of maybe copying some of your strategy and looking at maybe going a little bit more depth heavy where in the past, it looks like teams have tried to stay more top heavy. So we'll see how that shakes out for you guys.
Look, I actually want to point out one thing that you said there, and I think that this is an appropriate way to end what has been just an amazing conversation. You said copying your strategy, and look, we've all spent a lot of time on Twitter over the course of the madness that has been free agency and the offseason here in the NFL, and that place is just filled with people that are putting out fake information, trying to scoop stories and player transactions. And I just want to say, Justin, you have been a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
You have nailed scoop after scoop. You've been there for all of us fans that need reliable information. And we now know, I think with certainty, why they call you the bad boy of scoops.
I appreciate that. And, right hand up, I don't get them all 100% right, but
nobody does.
Of them, and that's always
ask the guy that scooped Tom Brady retiring.
That's true. Yeah, just happy to share the information, and the sources that I've accumulated over the years are all more willing to kind of get that buzz out and really help the fans know and grow the sport and learn more about it on a daily basis.
Justin Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you will come back. Maybe we'll have you on back further into our regular season, so you can check in on this Andy Aarons character and see how his team is doing.
Yeah, definitely. Before I go, real quick, I just got a text. I'm hearing Terrell.
Oh boy, breaking news! Oh my God, what do you got for us?
I'm hearing Terrell Edmonds is close to finalizing a deal with the Steelers.
Wow!
Re-signing for the 2020 season.
Wow. So we've got
Greg's day.
First time we see a live scoop on the pod. And this also means the Honey Badger is very unlikely to be coming to Pittsburgh. Edmonds coming back. Wow.
Yep. Incredible.
Thank you so much. This has been a
thank
pleasure.
you, Justin.
Yeah, I appreciate your
Take
time.
care. And if you don't already follow him, he's on Twitter at Bad Boy of Scoops. Really simple, at Bad Boy of Scoops. Give him a follow. You won't regret it.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Take care.